Join us as we speak with a whole host of expert navigators through the land of parenting. They'll offer you stories, validation, and a few directions to help you find your way if you're feeling a little lost. Welcome. Connected Parenting founder Jen Muir is a parent educator, author, social worker, grief counsellor, and mother of 4 boys. She's passionate about helping families to connect and thrive amid the many challenges of modern parenting. Jen has appeared on Sunrise, The Today Show, The Morning Show, The Project, 2Day FM and ABC. Her recent book, Little People, Big Feelings, published in 2024, and her co-hosted podcast, Beyond the Chaos, provide valuable resources for those working with or raising children. So welcome, Jen. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you. So I would love to start by asking if you would share a bit about yourself, how you got to this point with 4 boys and a busy small business, and why you're passionate about the elements of this podcast, mindfulness, attunement, play and self-care.
So I probably I fell backwards into all of this. I never intended to. I'm an accidental business owner, and I definitely didn't intend to be a parent educator. I was first and foremost a social worker. So I'd worked in social work for 20 plus years, and it was through my experience as a social worker that I realised how important those early years are, and those attachments with our primary caregivers, and just what a huge role they play, and I saw the impact in our criminal justice systems and all of the systems that I was working across. So when I had my own children, I was particularly focused on bringing that to my parenting. And I found myself on the floor of my kitchen with a 2-year-old and a newborn, and my 2-year-old was having meltdowns, and I found myself struggling as much as any of us do with those big feelings and with everything that came. And I thought, wow, like if I'm the daughter of a family therapist and I'm a social worker and I've read every book and it's still really hard, for me to be the parent I want to be in the moment, then it must be a really hard thing to do. Yeah. And so I went on a bit of a personal journey, which was never about educating others. And that was only ever for me because I just have a really deep passion on what makes parenting work and not work. And it's kind of just been a long-term passion. And then I found myself in a social work role where one of my jobs was to do parent education. I was also doing some grief work and bereavement work at the same time. And it's like everything merged into one, and it's like I found my calling. I just loved helping parents with that education around parenting, and it just kind of exploded from there. But I'm reluctantly running a business and reluctantly on social media and TV. But I just love talking about and helping parents.
Beautiful. I love hearing your messages. Just the connection has been such a big piece for me in my parenting journey, and I love that you're one of the beautiful voices out there, letting everyone know how important that is. So would you be willing to share a story about a map or a set of ideas that you found helpful for yourself or the parents you work with, particularly when parenting feels overwhelming?
Yeah, look, the map that stands out in my head when you say that is the map I learned through studying Circle of Security when I was working on my parenting. And that visual of the needs of children, this idea that there is a circle where kids go out across the top and they have all of those needs when our kids are okay and exploring and they're not needing anything from us, but they're still needing us to delight in them and notice them and see what they see, and all of those beautiful things that we can even see in our brand new babies, where they adore it when we talk out loud about their world, or when we see the things they see as they're being pushed in the pram, and same with our older kids. And then that return journey where kids are coming in and needing to come back to that safe base. Learning that map, I remember sort of the first time I started to spot it, and not just spot it in my own children. It was almost easier to spot in other children at first, and seeing the going out and seeing the coming in and seeing that pattern. It really gave me a sense of what my kids needed. And I love using that example with other parents because it's so helpful to understand what our kids might be needing when sometimes our autopilot gets in the way of being that.
Yeah, really changing that conversation or that internal chatter of like what's wrong with this kid to what does this child need. Yeah,
and particularly for me, being able to attune to my kids when they're coming in, I found harder. So I'm okay when my kids are happy and moving out, and I think many parents relate to this, but when they were coming in, and particularly if it wasn't, if I couldn't fix it or solve it and they kept crying or kept needing me, I found that really hard personally, and I know many parents find that hard. I work with a lot of parents, and that very first week in the hospital when our babies can cry in the night can be so hard because we give parents this message, I think, from the minute they have their first baby: here's your baby. When it cries, you need to work out what's wrong and you fix it or solve it with a feed or with comfort. And parents will do this, and when it works, feel amazing. But when it doesn't work and the baby keeps crying, they can feel like they're getting it wrong, or maybe there's something wrong with the baby, when in fact there's this whole other thing happening where the baby is communicating and lowering cortisol by having a cry and just expressing what they need to express about their world. And if we can teach parents from the very beginning that actually what our kids might be needing sometimes is just for someone to be with them and co-regulate with them and see what they see, or just be with them in that, what a difference that can make to kind of our experience of parenting and to the experience for our babies and kids.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there, and it's such... I don't think it's that unusual a message now in the worlds probably you and I are in, of parenting. We're talking a lot about being with children's feelings. But I think for a lot of people who haven't come across these ideas before, that when you said attuning to our children, like I wonder if you can explain what that might look like. What does attunement with a crying baby look like? Or what does attunement with a tantruming too many T's, a tantruming toddler look like?
Yeah. I often say to parents, particularly in those really tough moments of parenting, attunement can look like just trying not to lose it when your kid is losing it. If we're being really real, it's just trying not to either go into fight, flight, or freeze ourselves. But realistically, what we're trying to say to our kids in those moments when they're struggling is something like, I too know what it's like to feel something like that, and you're not alone in this. So for older kids, we're saying something or showing with our body, I'm not moving away from you even when you're having these big emotions. I'm here as close as I can be without making it worse. I'm not scared of these feelings. And we might say something like, I can see you're having a hard time. I can see this is so tough. Or, I often tell a story about one of the worst meltdowns my son ever had. And I spent about, 7 minutes trying to fix it or solve it or distract him, offer him, because he was crying, because he wanted a new banana. And I was saying, here, have rice wheels, or watch the Wiggles, or, look in the bowl, I don't have any bananas. And I was feeling myself so frustrated. And that's even as a parent educator who had been working on this stuff for many years when this happened. And then I remembered, this is this bit I find so hard. Just that awareness of what he really needs is that attunement, and for me to stop fighting his feelings and just let him know I get it. And I actually sat on the floor next to my son, and I only said 3 things. And all I said was, your banana broke, you really didn't want it to break, and you're really, really sad about this. And within 6 seconds, my son's head was leaning against my shoulder, and within 7 seconds, he was eating the banana. And I tell the story because it highlights just how well this stuff works when we can just let our kids know, hey, I get it. And that's what attunement is in those really difficult moments. I think it's just, hey, I'm here and I get it. You're not alone in this. But I tell this story also because even with all the knowledge in the world, it can be really, really hard to do that, to actually stop fighting those feelings. because that pressure to fight the feelings, it's this covert stuff that, you know, is likely about the experiences I've had to date and how comfortable my caregivers felt about my feelings when I had big meltdowns. And so there's so much happening in those moments, but I think it's about surrendering more than anything else, and sometimes narrating. And I think that attunement is also happening when our kids are happy, and we're sort of noticing that you're really excited about this. I can tell by your face, and that makes our kids feel so seen, and that's really what we're trying to do some of the time.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. That was really helpful.
Thanks.
So if parents are feeling a bit wobbly, and I certainly know I had a rough time in the early days, and it wasn't just sort of one thing. It was like a whole day. It was minute by minute, sort of just clinging on by my fingernails.
Yep.
If there's that level of feeling lost, what's a true north point that parents can just tune into right now, just one actionable thing they can try, experiment with? What's your suggestions there?
So whether you are a parent who is on your second or third day of parenting thinking, what do I do with this crying baby, or what am I getting wrong, or whether you're a parent feeling overwhelmed by multiple children and sibling rivalry, or whatever it is that has you feeling so lost, so overwhelmed. Maybe you feel really hard on yourself because you didn't get it right today. You weren't the parent you wanted to be when you went to bed last night through the day. The single biggest thing that has helped me in my parenting is actually self-compassion, but I would like to kind of explain how it might sound as you use it as a tool. Mm-hmm. It might sound like you're having these really hard thoughts about like, oh, I should be enjoying this, or why am I like this, or whatever it is where you're talking negatively to yourself. And sometimes I actually put my hands on my heart when I say this, but I might say something like this, like, this is really hard, or I'm doing the best that I can. So either of those two things. And you might follow that with, I've never done this before. And let me add to that, you're forever that first time parent in every new situation you're in. So whether you're on night 3 with a brand new baby and you've never done parenting before, and it is hard because you've never had to do this before. It's your second day on a brand new job, and there is so much yet to learn, and yet you are doing your best. And the fact that it feels hard is a sign of how much you care. But also for me, I've got an almost 16-year-old, and I'm in this whole new stage of parenting where I've got new worries and new challenges that I have to show up for, and I'm wobbly and I get it wrong sometimes. And I do the same thing now. I think this is hard. Yeah, that's because I've never done this stage before. So it's pretty simple. It's just talking to ourselves kindly, but actually stopping and acknowledging out loud, this is hard and I am doing my best, can lower our cortisol, can lower our brains from heading into fight, flight or freeze. And often if we offer ourselves compassion first, that compassion can flow on to our child, and my child is doing their best too. They're a good kid having a hard time as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so important and beautiful, and a real change maker, isn't it, when we can start to bring that regularly. Not easy. So I think...
I was the hardest on me as a young parent I think you could be, and I used to sit on the couch and I was so convincing at what a rubbish mama was, I could convince my husband, and then he'd agree, and then I'd get really mad at him for agreeing. What do you mean? I think I'm a rubbish mum. But I'd say, I snapped and I shouldn't be like this. I used to do that a lot, and then it was almost the day he joined in that I went, I'm not going to put up with this. Yeah. And I found Kristen Neff. I think she's amazing with self-compassion. And I started to say, hey, I'm doing the best that I can. Yeah. And I just don't allow that talk now. I catch it and don't do it. And I reckon it's one of the best things we can do for our parenting.
Oh, thank you for sharing that story too. It's quite vulnerable, isn't it, to sort of acknowledge how hard it can get in our homes and how much we can bring that big, whacking ourselves. And I'm really glad that you found a way to work with that's allowed you to flourish, obviously. I'm sure you have your days, but you're out there in the world and supporting parents. That's what it's all about, isn't it? That we get to a place where we can then, in turn, support our kids and
Yeah, well, I think
others.
if we can bring ourselves off that ledge of panic with compassion for ourselves, the next step is usually really clear. Because my first step with my kids is always going to be connection. It's always going to be to come in and say, hey, okay. And that connection is not always soft and giggling together. Sometimes connection is seeing them in their struggles. Sometimes connection is, I can see a limit's needed here.
Yeah.
And that's that true attunement. But I don't think we can get there if we ourselves are in fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah, absolutely. And carrying, our old stories and emotional backpacks full of gunk. Yeah, so I think that's really beautiful to remember that gentle and connected parenting, or connected parenting doesn't mean permissive in any way. It can still mean offering a really, really strong limit in a loving way. Yeah, beautiful.
Completely. Yes.
And you and I, before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about play. So I wonder if you want to put anything in here before we finish up about the power of play, because I think it is the magic source, isn't it, of parenting?
Yeah, I mean, I learned everything I sort of know about play sort of through Maggie Dent and learning that play could be such a game changer in helping my kids to regulate and process their emotions, that play is one of the best ways to connect in with my kids. The power of joining them in their worlds, the power of silliness. And I've just seen it in so many ways. I mean, we know at that academic level that play is how kids learn everything they need to learn. But the way that I've seen it, or that I recommend when I'm working with parents, that they kind of think of it therapeutically, if you have a child that's struggling with separation anxiety, or, a young child, something like adjusting to a new sibling, or even moving from a cot to a bed, using their toys and using play and following with their play themes can be such a beautiful way of helping them with those emotional experiences. Knowing that by joining kids in their world of play with whatever their favourite game or toy is, even for just 9 or 10 minutes, makes our kids feel amazing, and it fills their cups to the absolute brim. And often when we kind of do that sort of really focused one-on-one play with our kids, behaviour improves and households feel better and we feel more connected. But what's so interesting for me is that realising that actually it's still beneficial now. As I said at the start, I've got a 13-year-old.
Teenagers. Yep.
Yeah, I was having a bit of a whinge to my husband recently because my 13-year-old wasn't helping out around the house and, trying to raise good men here. And my husband took quite a lot of joy in saying, you know what he needs? He needs connection, which is a bit of a joke because I've been saying that for so many years now. And I thought, okay, well, what's play for him now? And he loves gaming. Mm-hmm. And I actually joined my son for 10 minutes of gaming, different looking play than we used to do when we built Lego towers. And what was really interesting was, I knocked on the room he games in and I said, can I play? And he was like, okay. He was surprised, but kind of pretty delighted. And he laughed at how bad I was at it. And I didn't think much of it, and I only played for 10 minutes. And then later that night I was at the sink washing up and my son appears next to me with a tea towel in his hand. Number one, miracle, without being asked. And number two, he then turned to me and he said, how was your day, Mum? And as a mum of 4 boys, I don't get asked how my day was very often. So I really noticed that was a real shift in him. And I really kind of thought, wow, this is so interesting, because I spend my days talking to parents of toddlers about the power of just joining them for 10 minutes on the floor. And there I was joining my son for 10 minutes, of gaming, and it had that same beautiful impact of making him feel seen. And I think, again, it's that attunement coming up to that child, whether that's the baby, where we say, oh, wow, you're looking at the tree. That's great. I can see what you see. And that baby feels seen. To attune to that 13-year-old, hey, I see you really like this gaming and I want to know more about it because I love you so much. And I think our kids feel that so deeply, and it shows in their behaviour.
Oh, that's such a powerful message. I love that. There's some really interesting folk working in that space around screens and kids and gaming, in the sense of connecting with kids through that. And I've certainly found that with teen boys as well, that giving them a little bit of my attention and my connection in those spaces has been so powerful for them. And I think it makes sense if someone's kind of scorning, which is what a lot of us grown-ups do, about watching YouTube and watching someone play a game. You're not even playing it yourself. And actually when I stopped and spent a bit of time in those online worlds, it was amazing. Like what they do in there is really quite mind-blowing. And then actually them watching people on YouTube is they're figuring out all these incredibly complex strategies, and you have to press this and do this and go there, and it brought a lot of respect from me to what they were choosing to use their time for. That has significant impacts, doesn't it, when we feel respected, when we feel cared for.
And what parent isn't guilty of scorning the screens a little bit and just going, oh, what a waste of time? And imagine if for you that's really fun. It's definitely going to cause that disconnect. So this has been a nice reminder for me, actually.
Me too. Yep.
Go and join my kids in some, whatever it is that they're doing this afternoon.
Beautiful. Oh, thank you, Jen. It's been such a delight to chat with you. I can hear your passion shining through. I wonder if you want to share with us how parents listening in can reach you or can find out more about your work.
Yes, so my book is Little People, Big Feelings, and you can get that anywhere you buy a book. My podcast as well. My Instagram is where I connect most closely with my community, so that's Connected Parenting AU. And I also have a website where I have online courses and I provide one-on-one sessions, 1 hour Zooms and 30-minute sessions to anyone in the world, which I just love doing, because that for me that face-to-face or over the
one-to-one.
One-to-one work is so impactful when I find parents are working so hard at their parenting these days. They're listening to podcasts, they're looking at all the advice, and sometimes just having someone to fact check and dig through things a bit with can make a big difference too.
Yeah. Thank you, Jen. Thanks so much for everything you're doing. It's great to speak with you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me on.
This podcast is produced by Meerilinga, thanks to funding from Healthway. I'm Belynda Smith, Manager of Parenting Services at Meerilinga. If you'd like to know more, you can visit our website, www.meerilinga.org.au, or if you'd like to get in touch, send us an email, parenting@meerilinga.org.au, or visit us on socials. Thanks.